Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're finally going to be covering Maliss, which is something that's going to be brand new to this channel, and I just want to say briefly that this is going to be like the most basic bare bones version of Maliss. As we progress through the weeks and the months, it's obviously going to become more complex. We're going to be trying out different variants, but for now I just wanted to build like a solid base that we could actually work on. So with that in mind, let's jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're of course going to be playing 3 Maliss P Dormouse. So of the 3 Maliss monsters, Dormouse is probably the best one, as it's able to banish Maliss monsters from your deck, and that's pretty huge because that basically means that you're going to have access to an auto link to play as long as this card resolves. And as if that wasn't already good enough, for whatever reason, this effect also boosts all your Maliss monsters by 600 attack until the rest of this turn, and just having this as like an extender, preferably off of a normal summon, just opens up so many different plays, because what you normally do is you go Dormouse, then you're going to banish your White Rabbit, you're going to bring back your White Rabbit's effect will activate, you link it to 2 for the Haggard Lizardose, Lizardose will then banish the Dormouse, Dormouse's effect will make it come back, and then for the cost of 600 life points, you have a free link 3, which, it's obviously pretty good, but yeah, of all the Maliss monsters, like I said, this one's definitely the best. And then speaking of White Rabbit, we're going to be playing 3 Maliss P White Rabbit as well. So this one on normal or special summon is basically able to set any of your traps from your deck, as long as you don't have like a copy with another name or with the same name in your graveyard. And we only play one of each anyways, so that restriction basically never comes up. But even so, whether you're summoning this during your turn or your opponent's turn, having access to one of the Maliss traps just to be able to potentially disrupt your opponent's plays or further increase like your board presence is just invaluable. And then for the final Maliss monster, I actually opted to play 3 Chessy Cat. So typically you're going to be seeing this card at 2, and if you're seeing it mixed with like another deck, you're going to be seeing Chessy Cat at 1. But since this is a more pure variant, I just opted to play the 3 Chessy Cat just because, even though it is the worst one, since the effect basically only matters if you have another Maliss card in hand, I just wanted to maximize on the names to ensure that we could actually have access to our Maliss extra deck monsters as often as possible, as you will sometimes just run into a problem where you just don't have any access to anything, right? Or like one of your key cards gets like impermed or whatever. So just having like all 3 names maxed out allows you to be a little bit more flexible with your plays and potentially break through boards more often. But I would only advise this in the pure build, which is what we are showcasing today, and that's for the Maliss monsters. Then for the other good cards that we play, I'm still rocking Triple Dimension Shifter. So even though this card is obviously abysmal in the mirror match, it is honestly still stupidly strong against every other deck, right? Even Ryzeal to like a lesser extent. People always say that Ryzeal is like a shifter deck, but it's really not. It does rely on the graveyard to be able to attach and equip their monsters with like more Xyz material to be able to pop more cards, especially for like Detonator. You also turn off key cards such as I believe it's I don't remember which Ryzeal it is specifically, but it's the one that's able to like send cards, and it's the one that usually puts the aggregator in the graveyard. So yeah, Shifter, it's still really solid and makes their boards a lot less impressive, all the while making yours a little bit more resilient to cards like Detonator constantly popping stuff. And then when it comes to like road decks in general, so many of them rely on the graveyard, and if you've watched this channel before, you've seen that like a million of my decks basically revolve around the graveyard, whether it's Tier Limits, Lightsworn, Hero, whatever. So yeah, Dimension Shifter, it's really, really good. You should be playing 3 if you want to offer like a pure Maliss deck. Obviously, if you do end up playing in a mirror match, it's an easy 3 cards to side out. You're just putting your 3 lances instead, and you just go to town. Then for the other 3 of hand trap that we are going to be playing, it's going to be 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Ash, it basically covers every single matchup. It's able to hit something every single time, but the best part is it's able to basically hit our opponent's Mole Charmies to allow us to combo freely for the most part. So yeah, you got to include 3 Ash Blossoms, and that's like the only, those are like the only traditional hand traps I play, I guess, technically. I don't play Droll because it conflicts with Shifter, but I use it in the side. Same thing with like Ogre and Veiler. I don't really enjoy playing cards that conflict with one another. So if you're playing like the more like inclusive builds that rely on the graveyard and don't play Dimension Shifter, then obviously those cards are really good. But because we play the Shifter, Ash Blossom is pretty much all that we need. Then for the one-ofs, we're playing the one-of Bystial Magnamhut, the one-of Bystial Druiswurm, and the one-of Bystial Baldrake. These basically allow you to turn all your quote-unquote bricks, where you'd, for example, have say you normal summon your Dormouse, it gets impermed, your opponent thinks that they're basically just sitting pretty, right? Now, because of the Bystials, we can just link that card off, and then we can activate our Bystial monster's effect to banish the Maliss monster in our graveyard, and then the Maliss monster will activate, and just like that, we have 3 monsters in the field to continue comboing off. So, yeah, I really like the inclusion of the Bystials being able to be used as like extenders, but then obviously you can also use them for defense as well, just because there's so many cards running around in the game right now, specifically the Fiendsmith engine, which is all light, so you know, being able to disrupt that to allow yourself to play more during your turn as well, just invaluable. And then we're going to finish it off with the 1 Dotscaper, which is just a good link 1 Cyberse monster that comes back once when it's banished and once when it's sent to the grave, and then the 1 Code of Soul, which is an extender that also allows us to link summon during our opponent's turn. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're on the spell and trap portion of the video, we're going to be playing 3 Maliss in Underground. So this card is basically the perfect starter and the perfect extender at the same time, as when it's activated, it's able to banish 1 Maliss card from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So this can banish all your main deck monsters, and it can also banish the Maliss extra deck monsters as long as they're in the grave. And the best part about this is that honestly, it's super hard to stop just because they can't Ash Blossom it, right? And the only hand trap that your opponent could possibly use to prevent this card from going off would be obviously Artifact Lancy, which everyone is playing, but only in the side. And then potentially like Ghost Bell, which is seeing basically next to no play. But for the most part, this card is almost always going to resolve, which means that as long as you have like this, you're pretty much going to have a backup plan to be able to do something every single time. And as for its other effect, once you have like 3 different named Maliss trap cards that are banished, all your Maliss link monsters gain 3k attack. The effect, it doesn't really matter. You're going to OTK your opponent before then most times, but it can come up, especially when you're dealing with like the towers like monsters, right? Which would normally be pretty difficult. Thanks to this card, we just banish all 3 of our traps, and then we can run over everything pretty easily. So yeah, gotta play 3 Maliss in Underground and Pure Maliss. Then for the next 3 of, this is, I guess, not really controversial, but it's constantly debated if you should be playing Signet Mining or 3 Allure of Darkness. So as stated previously, I don't enjoy when cards conflict with one another, and because Signet Mining has to send cards to the graveyard, that means cards like Dimension Shifter are going to be a lot more ineffective at times. And as a result, I basically decided to play 3 Allure of Darkness, especially because so many of the main deck monsters are dark anyways, right? You have Dimension Shifter, which you will be wanting to get rid of after you use the first one, which makes it like a prime target for allures. Every single one of your Maliss main deck monsters is dark, so you draw 2, banish it, then you're triggering their effects to bring themselves back. And even sometimes like the Bystial monsters, right? You're not always going to need them, so just drawing 2, banishing a Bystial that you don't need, especially like if it's Bystial Baldrake, for example, can go a long way in just helping you gain more resources and just shutting out your opponent. And as a result, that's why I like to play 3 Allure of Darkness, but if I wasn't playing Dimension Shifter, I would more than likely be relying on Signet Mining to get my plays across. But yeah, because we play Shifter, we play the Allure. Then for the final 3 of spell in the deck, we're going to be playing 3 Book of Eclipse in the main deck. This is pretty much the go-to card to help you deal with Ryzeal boards more effectively, as the only way that they reliably have to stop this is with an Ash Blossom in their hand. And I mean, if they wasted an Ash on like a Book of Eclipse, we'll take that trade basically every single day of the week, especially because this card isn't once per turn. So if you have like another one, you just do it again. Or it also opens up other cards that you may be playing, such as like your Triple Tactics Thrust or your Triple Tactics Talent, which can just blow the game out right then and there. And then speaking of talents, we're going to be playing 2 talents in the main deck as well. No Thrust, just because I feel like it's better relegated to the side for when you're for sure going second, or you have like a better idea what you want to side in. But yeah, 2 talents. It's just a phenomenal card currently with how many hand traps are currently floating around in the metagame. Whether you're going first or second, you will be hit by some kind of monster effect at some point. So talents, being able to rip apart the hand, take away a card from your opponent's field, it's a monster, or just draw you 2 more cards, is just all invaluable. Then for the other spells, we just play some good 1-ofs. You play the 1 Terraforming to be able to search out your field spell, the 1 Gold Sark to basically become any one Cyberse monster that you want it to be. If you just want fodder, you can send Dotscaper. If you need a specific Maliss monster, you choose one of those, obviously. But yeah, Gold Sark, it's just a jack of all trades that allows you to further combo off. And then lastly, we play the 1 Call by the Grave. You're not always going to have Dimension Shifter, and sometimes your opponent is going to hit you with like a, for example, an Artifact Lancia. So if you're lucky enough to open up the 1 Call by the Grave, you just chain it, banish the Lancia, and then you're safe for the turn to continue playing. Then that's it for the spells, and then for the traps, we're playing 3 Infinite Impermanence. Unlike Effect Veiler, this card does not conflict with Dimension Shifter. So yeah, and then like if you play, obviously you can't get hit by cards like Talents in return. So 3 Imperm, gotta play it. And then for the 1-ofs, we're playing the 07, the 11, and the 06. You know, just pretty standard stuff, 1 of each. You don't need more than that. I think sometimes you'd see people playing more copies of 07 just because it's able to, you know, search a card or search a Maliss monster and then banish a card on the field if you have a link. But for the most part, 1 of each is perfectly fine. We don't need more than that. And with that, that's the main deck. And now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now, as far as the extra deck is concerned, it's basically nothing but Cyberse monsters because, lo and behold, this is a Cyberse deck. But even so, we do play a couple of other cards that mesh pretty well with what we're trying to accomplish. So as a result, we're playing the 1 Cyberse Desavewurm, and this is going to be basically like a spell and trap negate, and the way that you get it into the graveyard is that you're just going to be sending it off of your Terahertz. However, there is some kind of like cool utility if you want to try out like certain tech cards. For example, if you expect to be playing nothing but like mirror matches, a card that I'm a really big fan of for the Maliss deck is actually Super Polymerization, as stupid as that may sound, right? So basically, you're just using Super Poly in the mirror match to clear your opponent's board, as they're typically always going to have like some kind of Firewall plus a Maliss monster on the field, and that in turn basically allows you to summon the Desavewurm for free, while also being able to clear your opponent's board of like certain threats that would otherwise prevent you from playing. And it comes up more often than you think. Now, I'm not telling you to do it because obviously you're not going to be playing anything but mirror matches. You're probably going to be running into card or decks like Rizio more often than not, but it is an option if you want to consider it. So I'm just throwing that out there in the world, you know, maybe someone will take advantage of it. And then for the other non-link monster, we're playing the 1 Mereologic aggregator. You're also only pretty much going to be sending this off of your Terahertz, but between the two, it's definitely the more ineffective card just because it doesn't stop cards from, like, it's a negate basically, right? But if the card activates on activation or on summon, this card is basically worthless for the most part. It is really good at helping you deal with certain like field spells, for example, or just cards that don't activate on summon. So take, for example, Fiendsmith Sequence, right? That's going to be pretty much played in a lot of decks. And if your opponent summons that, you just go Terahertz, send Aggregator, negate the sequence before it can activate, and then you turn off like one of their major plays that they had plans for. So and by that you're basically preventing the summon of like Desiree. So that's where you get use out of this. But if your opponent goes, for example, a normal summon, I don't know, Maliss White Rabbit, and then you try to chain Terahertz, the aggregator literally won't do anything. So you know, it's just one of those cards where you have to be proactive in its use, which can get a little bit difficult in like the hands of the more inexperienced players. And truth be told, we don't even really use it all that often. We'd much rather send something like Code of Soul during our opponent's turn instead, just to be able to link someone to something else. But it's still there, and I guess like if you play like Ultimate Slayer, this is when this card really shines, but that's relegated to the side deck. So yeah, that's enough babbling out of me. Let's get to the link monsters now. So for link ones, we play the 1 Lingurboh. This card is honestly really solid, but it really shows its potential under cards like Dimension Shifter, right? Where you normal summon a Maliss monster, but you don't activate its effects. Then you link it off into Lingurboh, and then it's because it's banished, it comes back, and then the Lingurboh gives you protection from cards like Infinite Impermanence, which you otherwise wouldn't normally be able to play around. So that's like one of the main benefits to Lingurboh. Then you have the Link Decoder to come back and increase your Link climb plays, as if it's used for a Link 3 or higher, it summons itself back. And that's it for the Link ones. We don't play Link Spider just because I feel like while the Nibiru token is like somewhat annoying to deal with, I can almost always push through it regardless if I have like a Link Spider or not. As difficult as that may seem to believe, you just have to learn not to overextend with all your resources, which I know is a lost skill in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, but you know, it really isn't the end of the world. So I don't feel the need for Link Spider. That's it for the Link 1s though. And then for the Link 2s, we're playing the Haggard Lizardose to have like our full combo for whenever we're able to normal summon the Dormouse and just have full extension. We're playing the Splash Mage to bring back our links and then climb even higher. And then for the final link 2, we're just going for the 1 SP Little Knight, which you can use offensively and defensively, of course. And by defensively, you just banish your opponent's key cards, or if they activate an effect, it banishes itself at another monster. And then the main way that you can use this card like offensively though is that You just link away one of your Maliss monsters plus like another Maliss link monsters plus like any other monster, and then your little knight will banish the link monster that you use to summon it, and then you get affected trigger and it'll come back and get like all its bonus effects, and you know, it's cute little stuff like that that helps you go a long way. And that's it for the link 2s. And then for the link 3s, even though we are playing Dimension Shifter, we're still going to be playing Transcode Talker. It's basically similar to Splash Mage, except this allows us to have or turn any 2 monsters into Accesscode completely for free, as the play is literally 2 monsters into Splash Mage bring back, link it to Transcode effect, bring back Splash Mage, and then go for Accesscode. But yeah, but it conflicts with Shifter. I mean, not really, because you're always going for this play the turns after Shifter resolves if you're going for Accesscode. So yeah, 1 Transcode perfectly fine, but it's probably on the more cuttable side if I'm being honest. And then for the final link 3, or the non-Maliss link 3s, we're playing 1 Decode Talker heatsoul. This is basically in here for when we do get hit by Lancia, because it will happen, as it allows you to just pay 1,000 life points during each player's turn, then you get to draw a card. So hopefully you draw your hand traps a little bit more consistently just to be able to deal with your opponent more effectively. Then for the Maliss link 3s, we play 1 of each. So that means we play the 1 white binder who can special summon, who on special summon banishes 3 cards from either player's graveyard, and then when it's banished, you pay 900 to bring it back, and then you get to draw a card. And then for whatever reason, it can also set your traps during your main phase. So, you know, this card, pretty good. You play the Red Ransom, who is basically able to switch the attack and defense of all your opponent's monsters. And then on summon, it's able to search out any Maliss spell. Now, we only have the field spell, but you never know. Maybe we'll get more future support for Maliss spells in the future. So, gotta be on the lookout for that. But as of right now, this is literally only searching the field spell, and then when it's banished, you bring it back, and then you get to banish any Cyberse monster from your deck. So typically you want to go for like the Dotscaper, just so that you continue to link climb even easier. But there are times as well where, like especially during your opponent's turn, where you'd want to banish like a Maliss monster just to be able to continue comboing off during your opponent's turn. And then for the final Maliss link monster, we're playing the Heart's Crypter, which is basically just a quick effect banish. And then if it like points to a monster, your opponent can't respond to this effect either, so it gets pretty ignorant pretty fast. And then its other effect, when it's banished, it comes back and its attack is doubled. So yeah, all really strong, all really good. And then for the link 4s, we're playing the aforementioned Accesscode Talker to help clear our opponent's boards a lot more easily. And then the cool thing about Accesscode is that you can banish your Maliss link monsters too to trigger their effects to come back. So you're popping, you're plussing, it's just things do get out of hand very fast. You play 1 OG Firewall Dragon to add back resources or bounce your opponent's cards. And even though all of its effects are hard once per turns now, it's still pretty ignorant in this like specific deck, as it's able to just deal with problems or gain back resources extremely effectively. And then for the final monster, because we play the Desavewurm and the aggregator, we're playing the 1 Neo Tempest Terahertz. This card literally just sends them to the grave so that you can have like more effective uses or interactions with your opponent. And with that, that's the extra deck, and overall, that's the Maliss deck. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!